Hello, magical creatures, and welcome back to Around the Cauldron. Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am your host, Zachariah the Witch. I am an eclectic grey witch that walks the fine line of chaos in my own practice, and I wear a lot of different hats in the work that I do, both as a witch, an occult practitioner and researcher, and a performer and artist. You've probably seen me on a few different popular YouTube series like the Overnight Channel, H3H3 with Ethan Klein, or even on the AMC Plus show Fear HQ conducting a seance. I've worked in the paranormal and spiritual realm for many years, but I did finally come out of the broom closet, as they call it, for good when I was about 25 years old. Since then, my life has blossomed and grown into more than I could have asked for.
Yay, witchcraft!
Moving on today's episode, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts with you on Around the Cauldron about some interesting topics that I found while reading, researching, and just browsing through different mediums of literature, fiction, nonfiction, as well as answering some listener questions. So, let's begin. Since the show is about witchcraft, I think it's interesting to ask, did you know that the modern witch movement was propelled forward by a man named Gerald Gardner? He studied the native people of Malaya, which is now called Malaysia, and then he later went to Dorset, England to study under a coven who then accepted him into the fold. He continued to study from the 1930s to about the 1960s, and he's authored several publications. If you're just beginning on your path, which I know a lot of my listeners are, or they're kind of reinvestigating their path, and you want to get some good foundations or principles covered within your practice because you don't know where to start or where to restart, I do recommend you to check out his work. There are ebooks available online as well as cheap resources where you can purchase and have books shipped to you. And don't forget, too, the wonderful idea of going to your local library. Please support the library system in your town. It's a vital resource for a lot of us. I did just finish reading his book called A Goddess Arrives, and it offered me some new perspectives on astral travel, as well as connecting with my own dreams and my own ancestors. There are some New Age mentions when you read between the lines where it talks about auras, and it also got me thinking, and then I started investigating more after thinking about the idea of auras, because I often wonder, is there a scientific theory behind auras? Or when we talk about auras and how a person's energy field or aura affects us, is there a scientific explanation for it? Some physiological thing that makes us perceive or feel or sense a person's aura? And the answer is yes. Recently, in my research, I saw that the stress hormone cortisol is released via our sweat. And so that means in close proximity to others, they are breathing in that hormone. And according to the National Library of Medicine, which you can look up yourself, human sweat contains cortisol in concentrations comparable with the salivary cortisol levels in our body. So what this study is suggesting is that profuse sweating after intense exercise will actually increase cortisol concentration detected in your hair, on your skin, and in any smell that you might give off.
Ew.
So when people talk about stress sweat or how it smells different, there's a chemical reason. But if you think about the spiritual side of it too, if we can smell someone, then we're most likely using our animal sense and picking up on their hormones, which also is where we might be sensing their aura. We can feel and perceive, oh my God, this person is under stress, or they're agitated, or they're irritable. There's a lot of reasoning behind that. And yes, I do feel that there's an energetic energy that we pick up on, which brings me to the next point. There have been some remarkable advances in physics lately, especially regarding the idea of quantum entanglement. Most recently, quantum entanglement was proven by the Polytechnic Institute of Paris, and quantum entanglement referred to by Einstein when he was alive, he viewed it as, quote, spooky action at a distance, end quote. Quantum entanglement is a phenomenon that occurs when two or more particles linked together share a quantum state. And you're like, Zachariah, you lost me. What the fuck does this mean? And trust me, I had to look up this myself. So it means even if these particles are separated by a large distance, that means like if you change the state of one particle, the other particle will also change in a specific and predictable way, no matter how far apart they are. So here's where my teacher thinking mind comes in. Imagine for a second you have two coins that are connected by a string. If you flip one of the coins, the other coin is also going to flip over. And that's exactly how quantum entanglement works, except the particles can be separated by any distance, and the change in one particle will still affect the other particle instantly. What makes this fucking strange and mysterious and has still puzzled scientists and philosophers for decades is the fact that particles could be light years apart, millions upon hundreds of millions of miles apart, and they will still respond and react in the same manner as the other particle. That is quantum entanglement. It is fucking strange, it is fascinating, and it's still not fully understood. But we've been able to observe it and see it within this last year, and I thought that that was some really great example of how science and spirituality kind of start to explain each other. Because I'm mentioning this for another reason, which is I got a question about a couple weeks ago by a listener of my podcast that follows me under the name Soren, and here's what it says. Hello, Zechariah. I go by Soren, and I have a question about the study of entropy and the energies of it. I don't know what I believe, but I've always had a deep respect, and I guess it wouldn't be too far to say that I worship entropy. I feel that I'm missing a message. Sorry, I don't know how to put the feeling into words, but I feel too small to possibly understand what an energy like this would have to say, or would even care to speak to a speck of sand like myself, and it wouldn't understand anyway. I would love some advice whenever you can. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you again. And that was the message. If you were listening, the main thing was about entropy. So what is entropy? So when you look it up, I even flipped open a dictionary. Entropy is defined as a disorder or a lack of order, but it's got another meaning, which is in thermodynamics, which again, I'm not a fucking physicist, so I had to really look into this, make sure I wasn't talking out of my ass. Entropy is randomness. And in the way that it's random, it refers to the atoms in a substance of an element unable to achieve function because of disorder. Or another way that I looked at it was this. It's a measure of how much atoms in the substance are free to spread out, to move around, or arrange themselves in random ways. So a good example of this is when ice, which is a solid, then becomes a liquid when it melts. There are atoms making up the ice in that different form that don't serve a function. It breaks down. So if I take Soren's question and I relate it to a more mystical perspective, it kind of reminds me of this, chaos magic, or even ideas that I've read about such as the void, a space, a being, a manifestation of nothingness, but yet we know that it still takes up space. So to me, the more we discover the purpose and the power behind things like black holes, quantum entanglement, wormholes, dimensions, etc., the more I believe that entropy is in the fabric of all things. It's in all cycles. And in the most theories, according to myself, relates to chaos. Because I think there is a profound beauty in chaos, because just like in entropy, when things change over time, so do the ingredients that bring about chaos in the next cycle. And those chaotic ingredients bring about changes again, because one form changes into another. So I think if you're going to communicate or work with entropy as a deity, like you asked, Soren, or if you're going to work with it as a personification of your own higher power, you probably want to begin exploring chaos-type gods and goddesses. Many of those are seen in present day as tricksters, shapeshifters, death and rebirth type deities. I also think, Soren, that you should consider, if you are connected to this concept of entropy, How do you see it personified as if it were to appear in front of you in some type of form? Like, what form does it take? I only ask this because sometimes visualization and building personal familiarity with an unknown force allows us to perceive it more readily. It can be as simple as creating a bowl of water contained in a receptacle that's black. And there, in that darkness, is where entropy or the void or whatever you want to call it exists for you. And now that, I'm talking about this, I can see my scrying mirror behind me out of the corner of my eye, and it's kind of giving off that vibe of like, it's the void. Because it's black and it's, a reflective surface, but you don't see anything really unless you're super close to it. It's kind of spooky, but it's also exciting. So I hope this helps, and thank you for writing me and for asking your question. That being said, remember, if you do want to contact me and you want to submit a question for the show and have me answer it, you can go to my website, www.zachariahthewitch.com, and scroll down to the general contact form. I always try to answer all of the questions that I receive in the order that they're received. So thank you for your patience, and thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Now, more recently, I did a live stream on Instagram in the last week where I offered divination for the people who were watching and participating. I also offered numerology, and I was asked this question by one of my followers under the username wit12866, which they asked, "Do you feel positive about the year ahead?" And I responded to them and I said, you know what? I'm going to answer this on my next podcast. So wit12866, this is your answer. And this is for everybody listening. So here is my brief synopsis about 2023 and its numerology. Hold on, let me take a sip of my tea before I do this. Okay. So in numerology, as we've always done it, we break down the digits of any number to a single digit between the numbers 1 through 9. So if I take 2023, that's 2 plus 2 plus 3. You get rid of the 0 because it doesn't count. That equals 7, right? So what does that mean? In my understanding, and for how long I've been studying, I interpret larger scale patterns for numerology like a 2023 equaling 7 year. The number 7 dictates at first a masculine vibration or a masculine polarity, which represents intellectualism, philosophy. It's also a time of understanding our own personal limitations, and we tend to gravitate toward connecting our physical body as well as our physical reality to the spiritual plane or the astral. So 7 in some ways is, well, in general, is the bridge from this plane of existence to a higher state of being. As with all numbers, because of positive and negative polarities, 7 does have a downside, just like every other number, or a negative aspect. And those negative things or those downsides are things like disorganization, foolhardy ideas, feeling rushed, not completing cycles or projects, hurriedly moving on to something else, getting lost in materialism, old ways of thinking that don't allow growth of the intellect. That's pretty much straightforward. In neutral terms, or the things that kind of lie in the middle here, the number 7 year of 2023, it does vibrate a good amount of ideas, as well as positive influences, motivations. But I will say, without proper balance and resilience, we will feel wiped out this year. We might feel overwhelmed by how quickly things around us are moving and progressing. Remember, just because things are moving, or just because you are busy, it doesn't mean that you're making progress. I mean, you could just be running around like a chicken with its head cut off and not making anything happen. So pay attention to that. Another thing to mention is people that have a life path of 7. So that means if you take your birth date, month, and year and add those together, break them down into a single digit. If you are a 7, this is for you. People with a life path of 7 often tend to struggle a lot with their inability to see things through to completion. Don't allow this energy of a 7 year to also rub off on you, because if you take that, 7 and 7 is what? 14. That's a 5 year. A lot of 7 life paths in a 7 year really get caught up in their woe is me, my feelings, I'm a victim. Don't do that shit this year, please. So to answer Wit's question, Do I feel good about this year? Yeah, of course. I try to feel good about every year because if I didn't, I wouldn't be practicing what I preached, right? Am I as excited as I was in the beginning of 2019 compared to this year of 2023? Absolutely not. 2019 was, of course, a totally different numerological aspect and energy. But I mean, hell, even though we had a pandemic in parts of 2020, some of it was better because at least we knew what was going on, and we started to also face a lot of harsh and necessary truths about so many topics, in case if y'all forgot. 7 years, the year 7 energy, the vibration, they tend to get a little woo-woo, as people call it, in my opinion. However, they always bring advancements in technology. There's rapid advancements in the health sector, entertainment. I just worry sometimes with this type of year, which is why I didn't do my year in review for everybody, because it's like I don't want to spread negativity. So I just worry that in some cases it means that we're going to see a drop in other things that are actually valuable or more important, like economic issues, basic human needs, all of that shit getting whacked upside down, or even, people talking about how the market's going to change with housing and a bunch of other stuff. It's just like, oh my God. Because if you go back in numerology, which is why I love numbers, another year that we had that was the vibration of the number 7 was in 2014. And if some of you, like me, remember certain things from 2014, here's some highlights. Russia hosted the Olympics. There's a whole lot that goes into that. The Malaysian Airlines flight that disappeared. There's a whole lot that went into that, we later found out. NATO, they just got out of control with things involving Russia, and then it kind of started the cascade of where we are now when we talk about this potential third world war. In the health environment, Ebola and the outspread of that. Overall, it was pretty much a shitty year on a massive scale for all of us. I'm really hoping with all the things that have passed from 2020 to present day, we've learned and absorbed and processed the fact that we need to hold those in authority accountable for their actions, their shortcomings, their bad deeds and bad behavior, and that a lot of the power has to fall back onto us. And that's something in a 7-year that does happen at times. So I'm really, really hoping that we can culminate all of that energy together to do that. So do I have high hopes for this year? Sure. Do I think it's going to be bad? No. I'm not as excited. Lastly, y'all, I am a witch, and when it comes to like resolutions, the new year, New Year's Eve, blah, 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 for me, technically, my new year really starts during the spring equinox, because that's when life begins again. That's when things are anew. That's when all the buds are blossoming, their new leaves are forming. It's the rain and the weather is shifting, and everything is just about growth and fertility and prosperity and planting seeds and things beginning, This whole like middle of winter, new year, new me bullshit, it's just so ridiculous. Just like daylight savings time. I mean, come on. We're going to say it's New Year in the middle of winter. Nobody's happy about that. I think we need to change it. I say boycott it next year. Anyway, if you would like your personal year and numerology to see how it's affected by the 2023 7 energy, you can, of course, contact me on my website and book a one-on-one session where I can help you investigate your life path number, your psychic number, your compatibility with other people. And we can even break down your name, your nickname, all that stuff. There's so much that the numbers can show you. And if you don't want to do that, of course, I read cards. I'm really appreciative of all the listeners and the support that I've gotten over the last couple of years with this podcast. I know that it started in the midst of, we were coming into the pandemic at the time, and I just remember doing all these live streams, and it was like every Monday at like 5:00, and it was just a nameless show, and then it turned into an interview style show, and now it's just formed into exactly what I perceived it was going to be. This show is meant to just be about having conversation, whether with myself or with others, to help us all think, but to help us all kind of look at things in a different way, to see all the different ingredients that go into the magic of our life, which is the cauldron. So I hope that the show is continuing to do that for you. And if it is, great. If it's not, send me a message. Let me know what you'd like to hear about. Are there interesting things out in the world that I should talk about or discuss or dissect or take a back seat to and just listen? I'm always open to that. I highly recommend, if you are a new listener, please follow me online. I have Instagram, I have TikTok, blah, 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 all those things. But anyway, I'm super grateful for all of you. Continue to be magical. And remember, try not to be a piece of shit. And may the spirits guide you, protect you, and keep you.